Join the conversation with Canada AM. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. Check out behind-the-scenes photos on Instagram and watch your favorite segments again on our website, canadaam.ctvnews.ca.
On any given night, 35,000 Canadians have no place to call home. Our next guests have made it their mission to dispel the myths about homelessness and to help people living on the streets. Carol Howes is the Director of Service at Covenant House in Toronto, Canada's largest homeless youth agency. Jody Steinhauer is the founder of Engage and Change, and its 2 annual initiatives that help people living on the streets, Project Winter Survival and Project Water. And Eric Cisterna works in the nonprofit sector and helps agencies working with people on the street. Thank you all for coming in to talk about this. And we're going to, we've got a kit here that we're going to talk about in a moment. But let me ask you first, Carol, about some of the myths that people still have about homelessness.
So what we hear often about youth homelessness is that young people are just trying to get away from, they just want to have fun and party. You know, we often think that young people who are homeless come from lower class or low income homes. And what we know is about 50% of the kids that we see are from middle or upper income families. So those are some of the myths that are out there. What we know is that about 70% of the kids that are homeless are fleeing or are forced out from homes where there's abuse and neglect. About 35% of the kids we see have mental health issues, so that's often a factor. 25% of the kids self-identify as belonging to the LGBTQ2S community, so sometimes kids will come out to their families and that's a trigger for them being forced out of the home. So yeah, those are some of the reasons why people find themselves homeless.
And Jody, let me ask you, you worked in this sector for some time, you've seen for some years. How have you seen things change for good or for worse?
Well, we were just discussing, I think, unfortunately, it's getting worse in the economy, and you know, the types of people who are becoming homeless are people like us who've tough situations, lost their jobs, had a crisis in their life, and just can't make ends meet, and potentially get into depression, can't get out, and unfortunately end up in the circumstances, and it's scary.
Eric, I know you work in the sector as well, and you certainly know, because you've had your own story to tell about the cycle of homelessness. You climbed out of it yourself so that you could give back. Yeah,
it's an interesting journey. You know, I grew up in Mississauga with great parents who raised me really well. You know, I made some bad choices when I became a young adult, and like anybody else, you make a bad choice, anything can happen. And like I say, for every person that's out there is a different reason as to why they're out there. And then doing what I do now, I'm able to, I kind of have my finger on the pulse of what's going on, and I hear a lot, you know, a lot of workers, a lot of fundraisers tell me about some of the troubles it is to, you know, even get funding to support these kinds of agencies, and it's my role to brainstorm with them. From what I've learned working in drop-in centers and managing my own outreach program, working at the Bargains Group allows me to really touch base with them on a regular basis and making sure that they get the things that they desperately need that they can't get donated.
And because of your experience, you would be able to help people put a face on it, as opposed to the myth-ridden kind of situation that we've seen over the years, that these people have lives and that they have a future.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends out there. I call them my friends. I have friends that live out there, and you know, they tell me all kinds of reasons as to why they're out there. And really, it's my dream, and really, I think it's my role to be a part of my community and make sure that things get better, help things get better. And if that, whether that's talking to a fundraiser on how to, you know, leverage their community, or whether it's me, myself going out there, or, you know, we'll do our best to do that. How important is it with these programs? I mean, we're talking about a problem that's multifaceted. There are so many different reasons why people are on the streets, and you mentioned a number of them. So how multifaceted does the solution have to be, or at least the help?
Well, I think there's a few things. One of the things that we do at Covenant House, we're Canada's largest youth shelter. We have more services than any other agency under one roof, and we do that because we believe that it's really important to give kids the tools to move forward. We see a lot of hope in the young people that we work with, that they're very resilient, and in spite of having a very difficult start in life and very difficult time on the streets, they do have a lot of resilience, and they just need a little support, they need a little prompt, and they need somebody to care about them and help them move towards that transition to adulthood.
And for those on the street now, Jody, and that have been in the, you've got Project Winter Survival, and these are some of the items that are in a kit. You've done thousands of these kits through fundraising.
Yeah, and these are a Band-Aid. You know, like we've talked about, the solution is long-term housing and support services interconnected. This is a Band-Aid for the people who won't go into a shelter. Nobody should die on the streets. So we get together and mobilize corporate people who want to make a difference. We come together, we pack these survival kits, and we give them to the experts, the shelters. Covenant House would be a recipient. They get them out there to the people who do not want to come in, or there's no beds. That's a whole other talk.
Yeah, it really is, and so are the, you know, the national. There's a national strategy. There's some provincial strategies. An interesting one in Alberta. We'd love to have you back sometime, and we can get into some of those strategies. And thank you for being a part of the conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will have links to Covenant House and Engage and Change. That'll be on our website. Coming up on the show in 27 minutes, brand new music from Joshua Radden.
We are supposed to go